What's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to your Tuesday live stream. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis, pleased to be joined by fellow Lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel, the young prodigy, and of course the newest member of the On Texas Football family, my good friend and now co-worker, the man who needs no introduction, Jeff Howe, joining us as well. Thank you guys for joining us, no matter where you're joining us from. Really appreciate you taking the time. You know how it works. You guys control the show, no matter where it goes. Throw your questions, comments out there. We'll try to address as many of them as we can. Super chats jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. Lots to get into. The Longhorns got another one, another commitment via the transfer portal. Murad Watson. We'll talk about that. Watson, yes. We'll talk about that on the defensive line. Another D tackle in the last two transfer portal cycles. They've gotten 5 D tackles now, so we'll talk a lot about that. Sark did address the media. Man, CJ and Jeff were there, so we'll talk about what Sark had to say. I actually got my favorite Sark statement that he made at the media availability. So I want to get into that coming up a little later on. It is draft week, so we got the NFL draft coming up to talk about that and the Longhorns that are expected to hear their name called this upcoming weekend. We'll also get into what other potential transfer portal acquisitions the Longhorns can make. Are they done? I guess we got to ask that question too. Are they done? Because if not, man, this is a hell of a run they're on right now. All right, so let's dive into it. CJ, Jeff, where do you guys want to start, man? We'll start with the Sark presser. I think we're going to start with maybe the Sark presser and then work our way to Murad Watson, or you guys want to talk straight up about Watson and what Texas is doing in a transfer portal? Because both of them are pretty hot topics.
Well, I'll let you lead the way, Rod. Whichever way you want to go, of course, and I might even defer to the chat. Whichever way the chat wants to run it. First comment, we'll go that direction. What do you think?
All right, yeah, I feel like that. I just feel like it's one of the days. So let's start with the Murad Watson, because Longhorn fans, they always it feels like Christmas when you get another player, especially a freshman All-American. That doesn't happen very often. So let's start there. Man, 5 D tackles. I don't know if CJ, if you keep up with it. Now I gotta try to do some research and find out how often in 2 cycles, basically an off season, that a team has acquired 5 defensive tackles. First of all, it's just rare to have that many D tackles. I would say for one program or one position, period. But then at the D tackle position specifically, and then going back to last year, that would make 8 D tackles they ended up bringing in total from the last 2 seasons via the transfer portal. But what are your thoughts? Open up to you first, CJ, about Murad Watson and their latest acquisition in the transfer portal.
Yeah, I love it. I think this is absolutely a move that you needed to make if you're a Texas Longhorn fan, hoping to see the team take that next step to a national championship, right? You've been to 2 straight Final Fours. How do you get over the hump? Right now it's in the trenches. It's game-changing guys in the trenches. And for Murad Watson specifically, not only is he huge for 2025, but he's going to be a 2026 junior, right? He's going to be in Austin for 2 years. He's a big piece of what Syracuse was successful in last year in their front 7. He's really, really good against the run. He's probably the best interior defensive lineman that has entered the portal so far this offseason in terms of run defense. And so when it comes to Texas, and we know those edges, right? I asked Sarkisian about the edge room, what kind of pieces that they might be able to deploy when getting after the passer. Well, if you're able to stop runs up the middle and force teams to go east and west rather than north-south, hey, that in itself is pretty tough for opposing offenses to find success against as well. Murad Watson right now, when you start looking at the bodies and how they might stack up with a Cole Brevard, who's going to be really good over the nose at 345 pounds, Alex January as he takes his next step. What does Texas get out of a Vaughn Johnson, whose strength at Maryland very much was his run defense as well? You're looking at 4, 5, 6 when you start getting into Hero Canoes and Travis Shaws of the world. What does this room look like to me? To me, it looks like a bunch of beef up front who are all kind of specializing in run defense, exactly where Texas maybe had some questions coming into the spring. They addressed them certainly out of the portal.
Yep. Oh, Jeff, I think you're on mute, brother.
2 times.
Yeah, but that's twice today. And that's what I get for messing around. Got 19 tabs open and trying to do research on the fly. So my apologies. Anyway, Rod, we talked about this on Football Theory, which Bob's will be out tomorrow. We just recorded Football Theory. And, you look at why you needed 5 defensive tackles. And I think there's 2 things to keep in mind. One is the health of Travis Shaw, which, he's had the knee issue, and if that thing lingers, then you're going to maybe not get the count on him as much as you thought. He might be more situationally. You might have to be more mindful of how you're using his snaps, for lack of a he may be limited in that capacity. Now, he might be fine, but, just keeping that out there. I think the other thing you look at is you got two guys, you got a couple guys now with multi-year guys, like the last 2 guys you've taken, Levon Johnson and Murad Watson, they both got multiple years left. So you like that aspect of it. But I go back to the 2022 recruiting class. That should be the class that you've developed some defensive linemen from. Chris Ross, Aaron Bryant, Zach Swanson, Jeray Bledsoe. None of those guys are on the roster. Go to the 23 class. Sadir Mitchell, not on the roster. Go to the 24 class. You signed 3. You lost 1 with Dontre Robinson when Bo Davis left to go to LSU. Probably also cost you Dominic McKinley. So you could have had up to 4. You only end up with 2. So, as great as Bo Davis was as a position coach and developing talent, the recruiting track record his second time around isn't that great. And you just got this. It's just one of those weird years where you just don't have a ton of experience. And I think this is Sark and PK and Kenny Baker saying, we're going to throw as many bodies at this problem as possible because we can't have interior defensive line go from a strength each of the last 3 years and have it be an out-and-out weakness. At the very least, you're hoping, hey, maybe there's a little bit of a step back, but it can't be the thing that holds your defense back from being a championship caliber defense. You might not have found a war daddy because you can only get what the portal gives you. You just got to try to attack it with numbers, Rod, maybe take that money ball approach.
Yeah.
You can kind of distribute the snaps, and then maybe at some point during the season, a couple of guys start to separate themselves.
Exactly. No, I just said one of the solutions to your defensive tackle uncertainty will be in this group, a part of this group. There's no doubt about it. They just don't know actually in what combination and how that materializes. But like you said, they gave themselves a lot. They gave themselves a lot of room for error. And I think ultimately, I think you'll have 2 or 3 of these guys ended up being in the rotation. I truly believe that because I watched enough film on Murad Watson. He's a dude. Murad Watson is a dude. I'm telling you, against the run, he's already a force as a freshman. Go watch his last 5 games. He really started to trend. You can tell the light kind of went off for him. He started to figure some things out later on in the season. But I like Cole Brevard. Love Cole Brevard's game. I think he's a really good player. And I've been told to watch out for Levon Johnson. That he could be a guy that also can be somebody that could be a rotational player for you. So I think they really did a good job of leaving no doubt that, D tackle will not be a liability. That position will not be a liability on defense. And you're right. And I think a lot of it was they want to stay exotic and they need options. Like you guys talking about situation where they get. I remember the 3D tackle package they had. That's something they used against Michigan, but I think they maybe broke it out against Vanderbilt, maybe, but with run heavy teams, and that versatility, having different guys who have, certain, kind of situational assets for you on defense line. I think that's important, but I think above all, they're not worried about that group being extremely disruptive. They're going to give them one main task, as CJ was talking about. We just need you guys to stop the run. And we need you guys to basically force everything to our magnificent edge defenders and let Anthony Hill eat. Let him hunt. If y'all can just let him hunt, we good. We need him unobstructed to the football. If that happens, we're gonna be all right against the run. I think that's how they feel. And I don't think it's I don't know if it's a strength yet. I think 2026 actually trends toward being a strength. And that's the thing, too. Was this strategic to get the underclassmen to try to stop? We talked about this, CJ. I asked you, was it a problem that you've gone into the portal at D tackle and you've had to be, so prolific in acquiring D tackles via the portal the last 2 years. And that's what it's for, to make sure you bring in guys that if you need something at a certain position, you bring in guys that can fill that need. But is it a healthy way to build a roster, an ideal way? It's not. And maybe this is strategic because they got a lot of underclassmen now that they've been recruiting at D tackle.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to go get, what was it, 3 last year, 5 this year. I don't think that's something that they'd like to do. I'm thinking ahead to next year, they probably will have to go get at least one. But at each position, I think it's fair to assume that the Texas staff will be looking at least one guy at each position, maybe save the quarterback spot. Yeah. That's fair, right? When you're at a really, really talented school like Texas and national championships are the standard and the goal of each season, it would make sense for the staff to go find the best available at each position, right? They've done so pretty often, right? Andrew Makuba, Trey Moore, these guys are pretty good. Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, they end up being pretty good for Texas. This year's no different, right? They've gone out, added a kicker, a punter, already Emmett Mosley, Jack Indry's another. But I'm looking ahead to 2026. Look, I think Lavon Johnson, I think Rod Williams building for that continuity will at least sustain, a baseline of that room in the defensive line, saying, okay, maybe all we need is just that one extra piece. We like what we've got, especially with the second year of Justice Terry getting bigger, stronger, his body more equipped for the interior. Who knows what a Josiah Sharma and a Myron Charles look like, because we've heard some positives about both of them already in camp. But I'm always going to be of the belief, and Watson, kind of just throws me to the side with this take, but I hate playing freshmen in my interior defensive line or offensive line. And I know that he just logged 493 snaps a year ago and ended up on some freshman All-American honor sheets as well. But if my guys are older, if I'm got 2 22-year-olds up there going against 19 and 20-year-olds, I love my chances, right? They've seen it before. They've been in the weight room longer. Their body's more developed, and they're just a little bit more football savvy in my eyes, depending on the player, obviously. But the way that this shakes up with multiple years of eligibility remaining for Watson, for Johnson, and obviously those younger cats, love it. I think it's a great addition.
I think the other thing, too, is as you look at how the staff has recruited, this is coming at a time where they're kind of reconfiguring, for lack of a better term, their recruiting from the high school ranks. Because, Roddy, even, maybe some of Sark's early classes, you would have just looked in state and then try to, okay, well, now we got to go see what we can find out of state. They're going where the fish are biting. And if you want difference maker, interior defensive linemen, you got to go where they are. You got to go to Florida. You got to go to Georgia. You got to go to Alabama and Mississippi. You got to go up to New Jersey and the Carolinas. So I'll credit the staff for kind of evaluating things and be like, all right, hey, so we don't get in this bind again. Our approach has to change. They went down to Florida and got Myron Charles. They went out to California and got Josiah Sharma. So they're not saying, okay, we'll pick over the in-state crop and then kind of get the leftovers. Like, no, and you look at the defensive line talent like they're bringing in this weekend. CJ, Jerry, and I talked about that on recruiting breakdown today, and you can get that visitor list also over at ontexasfootball.com. But you look at the D-line talent. I mean, it's from all over the place. Like I said, it's not just one area. They got guys pretty much all throughout the SEC into that ACC footprint. They're leaving no stone unturned, Rod. So they're getting it figured out on the high school front. But for now, this is what they've got. But I do think it's calculated, though, that you can hang on to a couple of these guys for, especially, hopefully you can hang on to them, because especially with like Lavon Johnson and Rod Watson, them getting their NIL deals done, hypothetically pre-house settlement, you probably front loaded those things. So maybe they've got some incentive to stick around for a couple of years.
Yeah. It's interesting how you talk about them reconfiguring their approach to recruiting at D tackle. So I feel like some positions they've almost figured out, right? They have a methodology, almost a proven blueprint how to recruit these positions. Like, seems like quarterback, Sark's got quarterback figured out. Seems like O-line, they got a good system about O-line and how they want to bring in guys and develop them. So I it's interesting how you talked about how they're reconfiguring. Maybe it's just because the state of Texas doesn't produce the kind of D tackles that you need, or a D lineman that you. And maybe it's just, we talked about this on another live streams running together, but just how rare D tackles are. They're just good. D tackles are rare. I just think they're just it's one of those positions. It's just hard to find a good D tackle. Not only do you need the guy that's got the size, but he's got to have twitch, and he's got to have some power to him. He's got to have strong hands, and he can't be afraid of contact, and the mentality, got to be able to hit and keep his eyes up. A lot of guys don't do that. I mean, there's so many different things you need to find a really good interior D lineman. I just think it's getting tougher and tougher to find. I think Texas knows that's why they got 5 this offseason. Like, let's just get 5 of them. We'll figure it out. As long as we get enough of them, we'll figure it out. And they're right.
The other thing I would add to that too is you look at, offensive tackle is one of those positions, and I think defensive tackle is a lot similar, Rod, just from the standpoint that there's usually one or two types of players that you got. And I'll use the Texas offensive tackle example. You can find you a Kelvin Banks who's ready to come in right away and be a starter. Like, he's unless he, trips on a book walking to class and has some kind of just mangles his leg or something, like he's going to be a 3-and-done NFL guy with a probably pretty good chance of going in the first round. You can go that route, or the next best thing is you go the Cam Williams, Christian Jones, Sam Cosmi route, where I'm going to take a guy and develop him. And I look at the baseline skill set, I look at the tools and say, he's not going to be ready now, but in 2 or 3 years, I'm going to have me a really good offensive tackle. The problem is now with NIL and, knowing you can't waste any scholarships with 85 scholarships and just the dynamics that you're playing with, you can't really take those developmental guys much anymore. I mean, I was wondering, I think we've got enough sample now to say the P4s, the power conference schools, they're not taking many of those developmental guys. Basically, the developmental guys now are going to the G5 and they're actually playing. So that way, instead of the 2 or 3 years that they'd be taking up a scholarship spot for you where you're developing them, now the G5 schools are developing them. And then a couple years down the road, like, oh, yeah, he did turn out to be a player. Now we'll go get him out of the portal.
Yep.
So it's a little bit those two positions where you need to develop young depth, and the ready-made guys are few and far between.
Yeah,
you're just not able to take a lot of those guys, and the risk you run is if you develop him for a couple years and he doesn't suddenly like his playing time, now he's going to jump in the portal and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's just created a lot of interesting dynamics, I think, with interior D linemen. And you can expand it out to edges to offensive tackles and quarterbacks. I think those are the 3 positions where I don't know that you can't develop talent by and large. You can find, examples here and there where you can do it. And hopefully Sark is doing it right now with Trey Owens and KJ Lacey, but it's few and far between the examples where you can still do that. A lot of times you just can't, and you're going to end up losing some really good players.
The key is to be able to retain them. And Texas is actually doing a decent job of retaining quarterbacks, some of the old linemen that you're talking about. That's the key. And then keep them, I guess, satisfied enough so that they'll have that breakout year. And then once you can showcase that to the younger guys, then they're more likely to stay and go, you know what, man, he waited his turn and he had a breakout season, and I'll wait my turn. I'm gonna break out too. It's hard to sell that when a guy's like, if I'm not playing, I'm not making any money. I'm not playing, I'm not going to the NFL.
It's the Alabama model.
Yeah, boom. There you go. That's exactly what it is. Good point, CJ. Yeah. Alabama model. Yep. Everybody's willing to wait their turn. 5 stars, just sitting. Yeah. Georgia, I guess, did it for a little while too, just showing like, no, I'll sit a little while and break those guys out. But it's tougher and tougher to do. It's a good point there. All right, let's thank our first sponsor of the evening, and then we'll answer some questions. See the super chats piling up there. Let's thank Andy Luedecke and his team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like myself that has their hands in multiple businesses. Well, Andy can help you diversify by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you can make or your schedule in general, call Andy and he'll take you through a process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. Now, we understand franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, call Andy today, 404-973-9901, or reach out to him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Thank you very much to Andy Luedecke and his team for sponsoring our Tuesday night live stream. All right, super chats, let's go. Football Junkie, appreciate the super chat. Thank you very much. He says, I think Sark previewed that NASCAR package today, Rod. Did he? Did he preview the NASCAR package? You guys were there. Did Sark talk about the NASCAR, and then what did he say? Give me the details.
You can credit CJ for that, Rod, because he asked Sark the edge question. So, and
Nice.
we talked about it, CJ, when we went live at the press conference. I mean, if you ask Sark the right question, he'll give you a meaty answer, and he gave you an answer with some meat on the bone.
Yeah, I think right after that, Jeff, we kind of connected and said, what do we want to talk today? And I was like, wait, he kind of gave me a little bit more than I was expecting on this answer. So, hey, this room, on paper, not incredibly deep. They don't have a lot of bodies, right? I think talent-wise, incredibly deep. But about 6 guys listed as true edge rushers in this room on this roster. That's, of course, with Trey Moore moving back to quote-unquote linebacker. So I wanted to get his sense on, what the room looked like outside of Colin Simmons. We know what Colin Simmons is going to do, but how's an Ethan Burke? How's a Colton Vasek? How's a Zena? That room has been pretty banged up this year a little bit, pretty quietly, right? No Colton Vasek, no Smith or Rogbo. Colin Simmons, he said, was limited a little bit as well. But on top of that, you got plenty of options from that linebacker position. I think that's where you kind of heard a lot of the intel from practice is, hey, we know Trey Moore can play edge. We saw that for the entire season in 2024. He was pretty darn good at it, especially towards the back end. Oh, but that's also why we went out and added Brad Spence from Arkansas, right? Similar body, similar skill set, like to blitz, like to get off the edge and get to the quarterback. 4.5 sacks a year ago at Arkansas, blitzing mostly from that second level or, kind of a stand-up outside backer off the edge. Very similar in theory to what Trey Moore can do. And then on top of that, he said, if we need to do it, hey, Anthony Hill, he's pretty good at rushing the passer as well. So, look, you got 3 different bodies at that linebacker spot that can help kind of complement that edge room. And, of course, with an Ethan Burke now going into his senior year, Colton Vasek, who we've all seen the twitch, we've all seen the promise of what he can do and that's a bigger if there, but if he stays healthy, that's a big weapon in your edge room as well. And on top of it, again, I'll go back to Zena because we've heard some positives in terms of what he was able to do with that first and second team reps early on in this spring. You got a lot of bodies, right? You got a lot of opportunities for these guys to step in and be, pretty dangerous off the edge in opposing quarterbacks when it comes to that passing game. It's all about finding the right connections, right? Which 2, 3, 4 guys work the best together. And on top of that, what kind of package can you put together? Are we calling it the NASCAR package again? Or are we going to have to graduate that to F1, Rod?
Yeah, that's not a people seem to like the F1. I'm not opposed to that. It just basically emphasizes that it's Colin Simmons, kind of package. But so I don't know. Whatever the Longhorn fans want to do, maybe we should have a vote. We should come up with a couple other names and see if we want to call it that. But it's worth coming up with a name for it because I think it's going to become an even bigger part of the defense. I think they're going to expand it a little bit more because they had NASCAR dime last year and the NASCAR nickel. Played the NASCAR dime a little bit more strategically on the third and 7+ yards to gain. I think they want to be a little bit more situational and on those second and longs if they can get a team, stopped or forcing a negative play on first down on those second and long, or even second and mediums to get really specific and strategic about who they're putting on the field for the NASCAR packages. So, like I said, last year, your last 7 games, guys, you're at a havoc rate of over 32% out of the NASCAR. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah, and I think it can be even better this year with what CJ's talking about and some of the versatility now you got up front. The Avenger package. Yeah, I do. I like the Avenger Ferrari package. I like the Avengers thing just because the Lambo package. It puts all your best players on the field. And last year, they just put all their best players on the field. And I think that was part of it, but also you just had so many, you had so much depth, embarrassment of riches at the edges, and you have that again. I can't wait to see who the D tackle is they bump inside. We all know who's going to be on the field for it pretty much. Those are the best players. But the D tackle they bump inside surprised me last year because it was Broughton. I thought it would be Collins. And it wasn't. It was Broughton. And I wondered this year. Justice Terry is working with the edges. Do they just throw Justice Terry out there and say, you know what, young buck, pin your ears back and just go after the damn quarterback at D tackle. You're going to be way more athletic than that interior offensive lineman you facing. So go out there and do them there. I don't know how they want to do it. But I got to tell you, I think it's going to be an even bigger part. They only used it 16% of the plays last year.
Ooh.
See, here's what I would call it, Rod. I would get creative, and at the risk of calling it a bad name, I would call it the Badger package, because I'm thinking about the Lampasas Badger. I'm gonna honor the late Johnny Lamb Jones, the pride of Lampasas, Texas. I'm gonna call it Badger, and maybe the fastest man to ever put on a football jersey at the University of Texas. So
you're damn right about that.
This is the caps of the past is where I'm going with that. But hey, we got in Austin, we got F1 race and a NASCAR race in Austin. So
I know that's what I'm saying. Like it is. So we gotta get together. We gotta come up with something. Maybe we'll do a fan or something, because we need to get.
I threw on my jorts and hit that NASCAR race this year, man. I mean, we had a hell of a time. It was fun.
Yeah. No, the thing is, you have to individualize it, because the NASCAR package is something that all teams utilize, and they call it's literally 3 edges on the field. So I agree, Longhorn fans, we need to have something that's Texas specific. That's for Texas. So it's a NASCAR package, but what makes it cool to make it our own? So I agree, we got to stop calling it NASCAR now. That's the technical term for it. That's not that we should have something cooler than that. So, because it really is, I think, one of their more exotic, my favorite exotic package that they use on defense. All right. Thank you, Football Junkie. That was good stuff. Second, Cisco Diaz actually has a super chat here. Thank you, Cisco Diaz. He says, on the third Longhorn interview, Max said you all were recruited to Texas because you were a fit. Is that the same approach Sark uses? That's a great question, Cisco. And no, the Mac interview that we did on Third Longhorn, it was awesome. I mean, he said he'd do another one. We got to do a part 2, but it was a great time. He had such a great time. I'm so happy that Mac is back into, getting back into the fold of the family, and also is back in Austin. So you'll be seeing more and more of Mac. But let me throw this out there though, because I remember Jeff Banks saying it. You guys probably remember it too. Back when we had LHN, God bless you, the old LHN days. And they interviewed Jeff Banks, and I remember him saying this, and it stood out to me. He said, we're looking for signs. And he said, we're looking for signs to recruit guys, signs that they're the right fit, signs that they're going to be compatible with our culture, signs that they respect their teammates and they respect their coaches, signs that they love the game, all these different little boxes they're trying to check, right, on their evaluations. And he said it a different way, but essentially he's saying the same thing. Because he said, if we're not recruiting a great player that you guys think we should be recruiting, it's probably because we didn't see the signs. Doesn't mean, he said, that doesn't mean they're not going to be a great player. They're just not the right fit for Texas. And he's talking about that's how they find their fits, is signs, right? They're OKG is what they used to, our kind of guy.
Yeah.
And Sark is big about that. And I think that's part of ultimately, this is a big part of retention these days. It's a big part of retention these days, right? I think is to find the right fit, because if it is the right fit, and not saying you'll get a discount with a player they want whatever their market value is going to be. But I think what Jeff was brought up earlier about guys kind of staying there and being willing to be patient with development, things of that nature. And I think that it helps when a person is compatible, or a player is compatible with the culture and the program. And I think Texas has emphasized that, and that's why one of the reasons why their retention is really good. Somebody's got to start coming up with like a retention metric, right, nationally. Down about retention, and put in there about underclassmen, that kind of stuff. Because I think Texas is doing one of the better jobs in the country at retaining their top talent, even the guys who aren't necessarily starters, but they're guys who are either contributors or guys who are developing. They're doing a good job of keeping those guys in. A lot of them.
It's gone from, and I haven't been, I know Garrett Wilson said it and people run with it, but I remember Myles Garrett telling me one time, it was right after Charlie got the job. I went and saw Myles Garrett, who I saw several times, went and saw him at Arlington Martin. And I remember he'd eliminated Texas that day, or he was getting ready to eliminate Texas. And I said, what was it, that made you eliminate Texas? He said, it's nothing against Texas. He said, I just see really good players go there. They don't get any better. And it's hard to argue with that. It was really hard to argue with that. But now, guys can look at it and say, the process works for Kelvin Banks, and it works for Bijan Robinson. It worked for Xavier Worthy. It worked for these 5-star guys that come to Texas as highly recruited guys. But that same process also works for a developmental guy like a Christian Jones. It worked for a guy like Jordan Whittington, who had to fight through multiple injuries. It worked for a guy like Jalen Ford, who was the lowest rated recruit in his signing class. So I think guys have just seen like, hey, this process does work. Like the one thing, Rod, that the last couple Texas coaches haven't had is instant credibility, because it was a lot of, more so with Tom Herman than Charlie Strong, but it was a lot of, we're doing things this certain way because the payoff's going to be good. And guys are changing the way they've done things, thinking, all right, if I'm going to go through all this, man, the payoff's got to be good. And when the payoff wasn't there, the guys just think full of it, and it's really hard to get them back.
Yeah.
And year one was so bad that, but once you got a lot of those guys out, and Sark had a lot of really good leaders, fortunate to really good leaders on his side. He had, when he got Roshan on his side, and guys that ended up becoming really good leaders, a Jake Mazers, Tavondre Sweat, Sweat ended up developing into that guy, a Baron Sorrell, a Jade Barron. You got credibility with the players, and the credibility was able to spread. And plus, I think Sark, I don't know if he got a mulligan with the players, but I think the players saw that Sark was sincere on making changes and made the changes and didn't publicly throw anybody under the bus. I think handled his business the right way. And I think, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but I think, Rod, the way Sark conducted himself that first year, at least publicly, I think that earned him a lot of credibility points with the players. And I think that's why guys want to stay at Texas, because Texas is a place now you don't have to worry about getting developed. If you're patient and you trust the process, it's going to work out in your favor at the end, because it's worked out for so many guys. Sark mentioned today, even a guy like Brendan Schooler, who they only had for 1 year, the process worked for Brendan Schooler. He ended up, being able to show out at his pro day, got a shot with the Patriots, and, he's a special teams all-pro in the league now. He's on a second contract. So the process can work. And if you just stick with it and trust it, it'll work for you. It's not, guys aren't in a hurry to leave Texas now. Yep. Whereas before, it was a trouble just getting them here, or they got here and took a look under the hood and be like, I don't want to be there. Why do I want to? I don't want to play for this coach. I don't want to be in this program. When guys are telling you during your recruiting visits not to go there, that's a problem.
It's a problem.
And Sark doesn't have those problems right now.
That's exactly where I was going to go. It wasn't too long ago where that was kind of the message is, hey, you're probably not going to get your time maximized. Your potential, your ceiling probably won't come close if you end up at Texas, and that's not the case. And then on top of that, I think a big part, joining the SEC was a big part, but I think coming in to the NIL world and seeing how some of the players on, the Texas roster live, once you leave Sanjak, you can basically live anywhere downtown, right? And that's not like what you can do at other schools, right? You just don't have that opportunity because, one, more times than not, you're going to be in a college town. Well, smaller town. You're not going to be in a big city with, all sorts of, skyscrapers, kind of lining up the lake down here. But point being, you can go on these official visits and find out where these guys go to eat, find out what a weekend outside of the season looks like, and say, wait, this feels like I'm playing in Miami, or like I'm like playing for LA or New York, because it's a mini, quote unquote college version of what you will experience in the NFL, and so I think that's cool, right? It wasn't too long ago. Bijan Robinson was, just kind of dancing around on ACL stages after, spring practices, right? That opportunity isn't, very evident everywhere else. So I think that's a big selling point as well.
And Mac would always say that too. He's like, I just got to get him to the city. I get him to Austin. Austin sells itself. He would always, that was 20 years ago, Mac was saying that. Now, even more so, like you're saying, CJ, now it's one of the major, pop culture meccas of the country. And of course, one of the most popular cities in the country too. So yeah, I mean, you're right about that. And I'll say this too. You brought up Tavondre Sweat. Tavondre Sweat is such a great story because when he let everybody know, and he was honest and forthcoming, and revealed that he was the guy laughing on the bus, that it was him, that he was the guy that was laughing. He's the reason Bo Davis went off about the guys that was laughing after the Iowa State game, the embarrassment. It does show you that, man, the culture is really good for it. It does a revitalizing football character. right? And it rehabbing it, if in a sense, because that shows that was bad football character by him. Laughing after that game against Ohio State, embarrassing. That was an old T'Vondre Sweat laughing about it, and then the new T'Vondre Sweat, after he goes through the process, he ends up being a leader on the team, one of the best players in the country. National award winner, and it just shows you that like you said, you got to, if you trust the process, which came, he did trust the process at one point. It can really help you achieve your dreams. But it's just funny that he was that guy. It was him back in the day. If you forget that, I was like, no, that was T'Vondre Sweat. Shamar says, CJ, y'all talk about the process. I remember you came and saw Ty at 7 on 7 when he was a 3-star. Ended up catching interception last year as a true freshman.
Look, that's trust in the process right there. Ty Anthony Smith, man. I mean, he's going to be a prime example. Coming in at about 190 pounds, soaking wet, maybe 195. And now, by game 1 a year ago, he's up to about 215. This year, he's right around 220, 225. I mean, that's trusting the process, trusting that, hey, I might not see the field as often at one school versus the next, but I know that staff, that developmental strength group will get me to where I need to go. And the best part about that is, Ty Anthony Smith came down with that interception, I believe, against Vanderbilt last year. Mm-hmm. My favorite part of Ty Anthony Smith in high school is going to see him in 7-on-7 playing middle of the field, center, basically safety, just right in the middle of the field. He was a center fielder for a 7-on-7 team. And Rod, you would have had no idea that this was one of the most elite linebackers in the state of Texas, that class, because of the way that he could range, the way that he read the eyes of a quarterback. He was making plays everywhere. It was unbelievable.
No, to start the season, because what was he, number 20, 26 or something? What was he? I hated having him on the field because he looked like a DB and he ran like a DB. So I'd be charting the game and looking at me like, oh, they a dime person? I'm like, oh, damn it, that's Ty Anthony Smith again. But he looks the part. To your point, he's so comfortable in space and he moves so well for a DB. So he always kind of, make me have to look twice because he looks like a DB out there. I think he'll probably put on a little bit more armor now and probably look more like a linebacker. But, man, last year he was perfect. And he still might be. I think you were talking about, Jeff, he'd be perfect for some of those sub-packages, exotic sub-packages you put out there at the linebacker spot to give you a guy who can work well.
I think he's money in coverage situations where you can have a linebacker on the field because you've got a linebacker out there to protect against the run. So he's a perfect, dime or nickel linebacker. I love having him out there for some of that stuff.
Maybe. Ooh, that's why I said they want to get more specialized, man. Because they got a guy like him. We forgot all about this dude. And I know he's going to play more. Leandro Fowler's going to play more. To play all these guys, you have to have exotic sub packages, and you have to have different personnel groupings that you're going to use. And whether that's matchup based or whether that's situational, you'd be doing, I think, a disservice to the depth of the roster, but also overall to I think the effectiveness of how many different playmakers you have by not putting them on the field situation to try to maximize that. So I'm with you. I like that. I forgot all about Anthony Smith.
Real quick though, Rod, going back to the overall about a fit at Texas. No staff is going to bat 1,000, but there's a reason. I think one of the biggest things that we don't need to overlook. There's a reason why in the recruiting pitch Texas doesn't lead with NIL, because if you do, you're probably going to end up with a bunch of guys that are going to end up picking you for the wrong reasons. Now, do they end up talking NIL? Obviously. It'd be foolish to say it doesn't happen because it does happen at some point. But don't leave with that. And I think Sark is mindful of that old Urban Meyer adage that I like going back to. There's a difference, big difference, as Jimbo Fisher found out, between collecting talent and building a team. There's a huge difference. And to build a team, you've got to have guys that fit. And that may mean there's this really talented player, but we're okay if he doesn't pick us, or we're fine backing off because we're not going to sacrifice. I think you've seen them kind of do this with, go look at the Jonte Cook situation. We're not going to sacrifice the culture of a position room or this program for one player, even though that player may be really freaking talented. We're not going to sacrifice the culture for that.
Yep, it's worked out so far. There's no doubt about that. All right, let's thank another sponsor before we move on. Mark Saunders. When it comes to protecting all of your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects it all? Well, here's some great news for you. Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders is the only insurance agent you need. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. Call Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. That's 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? With more than 35 years of experience, you will be with Texas alum Mark Saunders. If you're looking for someone local, Austin, Round Rock, Central Texas area, give them a call, 512-218-8571. Thank you very much to Mark Saunders and his team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football. Thank you very much. All right, let's get back to a couple of questions here. All right, how about this one from I don't know what did CB wants to know, Jeff, did the wasp sting you? Did you get
it did not. No, it almost did. Came close. CJ and I were going live from campus after the press conference, and I had my kind of elbow propped up on kind of like I do now. I got it propped up on the ledge where I had my computer sitting, and I noticed something like kind of grazing my elbow. I looked down, there's a red wasp there just kind of buzzing. So yeah, I kind of had to I kind of spazzed out a little bit and dropped my AirPods, and yes, I got a laugh out of CJ. So it was good. It was good.
Hold up, that I didn't get a chance to watch it yet. I always go back and watch stuff later, so I got to go check this out. That's still, y'all didn't edit that out or anything, did y'all?
And you think Matthew's gonna edit something like that? I know. We're gonna let that
I hope he edited you. I hope he did.
I hope he did
that in the face or something.
Oh man.
Just real quick, I hope some folks in the chat understand this one. Dane Cook, Sharks and Bees, one of my favorite skits of all time on YouTube. Being attacked by the bees, it just always, the joke is just, I'll punch every bee in the face. And I've always loved that. So seeing people dodging bees, I'm just like, pop, 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 pop. Come on.
Oh, that's funny. I got to go check that out. I missed that one. All right. Matthew might actually bring it up and make some kind of GIF out of it or something.
That's cool. Hey, if y'all want to make me a meme or whatever, I'm cool with it.
All right. Getting back to the questions. How about this one from Ryan? I like this question. He said, Rad B, in week one. Here it is.
Yeah. That thing was big, man. Look at that.
Let's see Jeff here. Oh, look at him. Oh.
See, I almost slipped, but I caught myself.
Oh, yeah, because you're on the incline there, brother.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. See, that's why Matthew's the best in the business. He's already in the process of doing it. That's why he's MVP.
I handle that. The replay doesn't look as bad as I initially thought it was. So
no, dude, we
went across. That was
because I've had the B thing. We used to do radio remotes out, different places at a restaurant and stuff. And B's like sweet stuff, so people leave drinks out there, and B's would come. So there's tons of video of Rod B out there ducking and dodging, even while I'm still talking over there. But the craziest thing was we did a remote at Dell Diamond, and they were doing batting practice. And bro, I want to say there's still video of it. I gotta find it. I might have it somewhere in my phone. And we were streaming, and dude, it was just, oh man, a ball came streaming right through the tent, and I would say it probably came, I don't know, maybe 5 feet from hitting one of us. We were all like standing right there, very close to each other. So, dude, it freaked me out. That's why I couldn't play baseball. Like some people are like, oh man, I was trying to catch that. Like trying to catch that, dude, your boy was sprinting the other direction. No, I don't trust my hands in that. I don't trust any of that. Like, no, I'm out of there. So that's I don't like to have to duck and dodge while I'm trying to focus on the screen.
One last non-Texas sports related tidbit from remotes. There was a time where, Rod, this has been about 12 years ago now, because I think this was 2013. It was one of those days where I'd had some work to do. It was a long day, and I ended up showing up at a pregame remote for we were down on the old Bevo Boulevard.
Okay,
Myself, Rod,
Mm-hmm.
John and Danny, we were all down there, and I hadn't eaten yet, and I'm like, man, I'm hungry. And Rod has his bag, that he carries all his papers in. He's like, oh man, I got something. I was like, what you got? And Rod pulls out like a chicken sandwich that he had gotten from a remote the day before. I'm like, you just carry chicken sandwiches?
No, it was earlier that day. It was He was hungry that day.
I was hungry. Like, like everybody's got you either have it or your friend group. You got that wife or that girlfriend, like, oh yeah, I got something in the purse. Like I got dental floss or whatever. Like, man, I really wish I had something to eat. Rod's like, oh, here's a chicken sandwich.
I went to like a or something earlier, and they had Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches. I gathered like 4 or 5 of them, put them in the bag. I was like, I got one day. I can eat these chicken sandwiches, so I had them ready to go.
Like
isn't that what you did? You used to do with what was it in your dorm days back at UT? Was it the chicken fried steaks?
Oh yeah, man! I would take I had Tupperware. I would steal from the I would steal basically from mealtime, all that stuff. Like I would take, I don't know, whatever we had, chicken fried steak, whatever, eating pork chops, whatever. I'd put it in Tupperware, take it back up to the room, and boom, later that night. Because dude, they had dinner I want to say dinner was like at 6 or something.
Yeah, that ain't gonna cut it.
Early. It was really early. Dude, no, if you're in college, you're hungry again like 8-something o'clock. And so, man, we had to have food. So, man, I would bring all the track girls up and hang out. They all wanted to eat. They was hungry too. Boom, they eat at the show palace, man.
That's dinner at 6 o'clock. I'm full Hulk Hogan. That doesn't work for me, brother.
No, man, that's supper. Yeah, as a young man, I can't eat that early. I can eat that early, but I'm gonna be hungry again later on. All right, yes, and CB, I did do a remote and a Snuggie. I did radio for so long, and we did so many crazy remotes. I did all kind of wild stuff. I think I did a Mad Men remote where I like smoked cigs the whole remote because I was trying to be like Don Draper. I did a show pantsless and it was in Lubbock, I think too, because I had to do the show from my hotel room because we had some technical difficulties. And I was like, I'm gonna do the whole show with no pants on because I can. You know what I mean? Why not? You know what I'm saying? Now I had underwear on. I wasn't getting freaky or nothing, but I wanted to be comfortable in my own room, so I took my pants off and enjoyed, my time there hanging out. So yeah, man, we do all kind of crazy stuff at remotes and radio. You get bored just looking for time to do some crazy stuff. All right, getting back to it here. Sorry about the distraction there, guys. Ryan says, Rod, being week 1, we will have the advantage with Sark's early season coaching, Arch at quarterback, and the better D line. You agree? I actually do. I do trust Sark. And Sark's early non-con, the big game for the non-con. I trust Sark in that situation as much as I trust Tom Herman in a bowl game. It's like money. I'm like betting on Sark in them situations because he does. Even at Alabama 2022, man, you're real close, man. You're real close to upsetting Alabama that day. I think that 21 season, I guess we can throw that out. The Arkansas game, that was the big non-con, and that was ugly. But other than that, Sharks teams are well prepared and ready to win that big showcase game. And this year it's Ohio State. I'm with you. And I think they prepare for it all offseason. The reason we know that's because Quinn never looks better than in them damn games against Alabama and Michigan. And then you're like, what the hell happened? And next week, he looks a little average, looks a little off. So I think ultimately Quinn, with that kind of preparation for months, I think they're probably already starting preparing for Ohio State. The guys probably don't even know it. They're probably putting little, plays and different packages in they're going to use for Ohio State without even doing all the prep yet. By the way, coaches do that. And Sark has admitted to doing that, leaving little Easter eggs in their game, in practices for future game plans. So, yeah, I trust Sark. I think they're going to beat Ohio State. I'll say it now. Texas teams, man, Sark shows up for that big game. They show up for that big game, and I think they're going to show up for them too.
They're going to have the quarterback advantage.
Yep.
I'm not sure if anyone's been following the Ohio State spring so far, but I'd be shocked if Ohio State trotted out anything close to what Arch Manning is capable of. So we'll see, right? Going on the road, not easy. Sarkisian's done it 2 years in a row. And look, if they end up winning this game, I mean, I don't know if there's a more impressive streak of non-conference away games to start years than what Texas will have with Tuscaloosa, the Big House, and the Horseshoe. Whew, put that against anybody to start the season. Yeah, no, exactly. Ryan, I agree with you. I mean, if it's something about early non-con Sark, well, he's dialed in and ready to go. Those are some of his best game plans. That Michigan game plan was that Bama game plan when they went to Alabama. You can't get better than game plans. You can't.
If you're telling me that the chess match is between Sark and Matt Patricia, I know who I'm taking.
Oh, come on, man. Come
who
on.
I'm taking.
I forgot Matt Patricia took over.
Well, it'll be Brian Hartline as well versus PK. And with what we've seen from PK, look, I'll take my chances with the Texas defense. It was PK versus Chip Kelly, and what was the hottest offense in all the country, and the best wide receiver that college football saw in 2025 had 3 yards. So yeah. I'll take my chances with a first-time play caller in Brian Harsin trying to implement back what is Ryan Day's offense, kind of his baby. I'll take PK in that battle.
Which for some reason, Texas didn't get credit for, holding Jeremiah Smith to 1 catch for 3 yards.
Didn't hear it.
No. You know what really screwed Texas defensively? What should have been a dominant defensive performance and probably led you to a win? It was that screen right before half, dog. Screen, that damn screen right before. That was the NASCAR package out there too, guys. That was like your best combination of talent out there, and they let that. I mean, that was honestly, I don't know if we've seen. I don't know last year. That defense was so elite. That was one of the best defenses in the history of Texas football, like top 5 all time. That might have been their worst. That was one of their worst plays.
Oh, without a doubt, it was.
Period. Like I'm talking about all season long. That might have been like bottom 2 or 3 worst plays.
Yeah.
What about that long run early in the season? Remember non-con?
UTSA. They gave up a long run.
That was another. I was like, that doesn't even look like this team. They don't even like. It didn't even. They had so few of those plays. You can count them on one hand.
Yeah. The halfback pass against Arizona State.
Yeah, exactly. It was like 5. It was like 5 of those plays all year. It was like, that was just a bad play because they're not perfect. But that was, that's why, because that play really negated a lot of the momentum Texas was was gathering at the time.
Yeah,
I remember the timing of that play.
And Bobby Petronic mentions it in the chat. Said obvious situation of football has been an issue for a few years. That's the kind of stuff though. That's where I don't want to lose focus this offseason, because if you're going to go from a team that's capable of getting to a Final Four, capable of getting to the semifinals, if you want to get over that hump and go win a national championship, it's about those fine details now. It's about cutting down on turnovers. It's about cutting down on penalties. It's about being really good, a really good field position team, a really good situational football team on both sides of the ball. Rod, we broke it down on Football Theory a couple of weeks ago, and I came to the conclusion it is historically impressive. It may be the best Texas defense we've ever seen, because they got little to no help. If you look at the body of work, little to no help from special teams in terms of their field position. Okay. And the offense turned the ball over way too much. Mm-hmm. So they got to be great at 2 areas of defense doesn't want to be great at, because you don't want to be tested in them too much. They were a great sudden change defense, maybe the best sudden change defense I've ever seen Texas play.
Yep.
And they were really good defending short fields. Again, another area where you don't want to be really good because you don't want to defend too many short fields.
That's a great point. I agree with you on that. No, I wasn't. That's it. Like I said, I don't have a lot of complaints about the Texas D. That was a top 5 defense all time for Texas last season. Phenomenal. And you're right about the point about the sudden change, which, by the way, is something they coach and teach. Sudden change. You actually do that in practice. They try to simulate sudden change because they want you to be really good at it. Usually defenses don't respond really well in those situations. Texas D was phenomenal in that situation. Let's talk about it. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Let's talk about advanced pain care really quickly before we move on. I know we'll answer a few more questions before we end tonight's live stream. But first, let you see and hear a message from my friends at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. And Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
All right. Thank you very much to Advanced Pain Care and their support of Born Texas football. All right. How about this one from M_Dow? Says, is Texas and Georgia the new Bama and Georgia rivalry? Thoughts? I would just say this. I said at the beginning of last season, prior to the 2024 season, that I thought Texas and Georgia would play 4 times over the next 2 years. And we know they were scheduled to play twice, of course, but I thought they'd play in the postseason at least once in each of those years. And it happened last year. They played them in the SEC title game. This year, I'm not sure about Georgia. I mean, it's got to be a big bounce back year for them, and they lost a lot. But I kind of agree with you, especially when it comes to recruiting. Now that Texas wants to get into Georgia, and if you look at the metro area that produces the most NFL talent, Atlanta's at the top of the list, and Texas wants to tap into Atlanta. They already have in a lot of ways, and beating Georgia is a big part of that, because that is what essentially has juiced their dynastic run, is that they were the first ones to find out and tap into, and they're the big part of why, because they're developing a lot of those guys, why Atlanta has become kind of the new metropolitan mecca for producing NFL talent.
Every championship team you get to, you have a point where there's that mountain you got to climb. There's that one opponent you got to knock off. You know, Nick Saban early in his tenure at Alabama, it was Florida. He had to get by Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow in Florida. You know, we saw for LSU, it was Alabama. For Georgia, it was Alabama. Yeah, I think right now in the SEC, if you look at the way, just the balance of power in the league right now, I think it's Texas, Georgia. I think can Texas get over that hump? Can they scale Mount Georgia and slay the dragon and move on to what's next?
You get to go to Athens this year. Look, everything on paper, everything from a headline perspective says that this should be a big rivalry. Rivalries, you normally see it go back and forth, right? So for me, before I start calling it the next big rivalry in college football, you got to see Texas win one of these games. That's right. Going to Athens, it's not going to be easy in 2025, though you're going to have a pretty talented team to have an opportunity to do so, and they're going to be pretty battle-tested considering what this schedule also has in store for the Longhorns with going to the Horseshoe. They get to go to the Swamp as well. I think if they end up winning that game in Athens, you're going to be looking at what eventually will be the biggest rivalry in college football.
That's a good point, CJ. I like you said there, because we say that about some other teams who want to consider themselves Texas rivals. Like, well, you know, it's got to be some back and forth there. I agree with you. And I think that, and we said this last season, guys, and it ended up being true. And I was hoping that it wasn't, but it is. Georgia's, at least last year, their blueprint was a bad matchup for Texas. And so now I want to find out, because they're going to kind of have to, really, overhaul a lot of the roster, new quarterback and everything. Is it Kirby's culture and system that are bad matchups for Sark and his coaching system, or is that just no? Their roster at the time, the way they built it, was a bad matchup for the way where your roster was at the time. So I can't wait to see that. That'll be big too. Because remember, Bob Stoops just had a culture that it didn't match up. Mac couldn't match up with it until he got VY. And it was like, VY will match up with any damn body. So did he really overcome, Bob Stoops, or he did just get VY and then he got cold? And it was like, well, those two, you got two of the greatest college football quarterbacks of all time. That's why you got over the hump. But we all knew Bob Stoops ended up being all-time better coach than Mac, right? Mm-hmm. It ended up being, to start, a better football coach than Mac caught up. I think he brought out the best in Mac. I always said that. I don't know if Mac's a Hall of Fame coach if he doesn't have a Bob Stoops to kind of go up against kind of what you were talking about there, Jeff. That's kind of question going forward with Kirby and Sark, because, I want to see them matching wits, two chess masters going at it.
I mean, you want to get old school. I mean, shoot, Coach Royal and Frank Broyles with Texas, Arkansas.
There you go.
Coaches going at it.
Yeah.
Go back to the old Big Eight. Why did it take Tom Osborne so long at Nebraska to win the national championship? Because he couldn't get by Barry Switzer in Oklahoma to do it. So yeah, every good championship team has that team that they need to knock off. The Michael Jordan Bulls and the Bad Boy Pistons in sports is the classic example, right? Like at some point you got to slay the dragon to get to what's next.
Or as Ric Flair always say, to beat a man, you got to beat the man. Ooh, there you go. Same thing.
Or as Hulk Hogan once said, well, I won't say that.
Hey, you can still quote Hulk Hogan, just don't quote Terry Bollea.
Right, yeah. I mean, Hulk Hogan does fight for the rights of every man, but Terry Bollea.
He does not believe in equal rights for everything. He's not doing that. No. We get that. All right. Let's thank our last sponsor, and then we'll get out of here for the night. All right. Let's thank our friends over at Andy Luedecke and his team for sponsoring our team here at On Texas Football and sponsoring our Tuesday night live stream. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like myself that has their hands in multiple businesses. Well, Andy can help you diversify by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you make or your schedule in general, just give Andy a call and he'll take you through a very detailed process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. We understand that franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, give Andy a call today. 404-973-9901. That's 404-973-9901. Or you can reach out at Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. That's Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. Thank you very much to Andy Luedecke and his team for sponsoring our team here at On Texas Football. All right, guys, we got one more. I got a couple more questions that we're taking. We'll end our live stream. Ricky Little says, can our O-line be as good or better than last year?
I think it can be better.
Ooh, okay.
If Sark and Kyle Flood just let things happen organically in terms of figuring out what this group is best at doing, and they don't try to force a run concept, because I really think you've got a chance with your interior line with Cole Hudson at center and DJ Campbell coming back at right guard and Neto at left guard. I think you should be able to move the point of attack. You should be able to reestablish the line of scrimmage much better with your interior line than you could last year. I'm not really worried about the tackles at this point. They're younger tackles, so there are going to be times where maybe they struggle a little bit. But overall, I'm not worried. But if that interior line group, that's where I think the bulk of your run game action is going to happen with those three guys. And look, if you need to run more gap schemes to do it, then do it. If inside zone works for you, great. If outside zone works for you, great. But I just don't want them, Rod, to be predictable to the point of where, well, I mean, that's just what we hang our hat on. No, like just let it come naturally. Let this group figure out on the fly what they're good at. And then once you get in a conference, now you can start really saying, okay, these are our staple run concepts. Now let's go build the plan from there.
Yeah, I've been hearing that pass protection's a little bit more ahead than the run game, which, hey, that's a positive considering what that edge room might look like in 2025. We talked about that earlier in the show, but I want to see them move bodies a little bit better, especially in outside zone, create those running lanes that we saw so evident or so prevalently against Clemson, right? You know, they were moving lanes that, you know, you and I could have picked up big time yards there. I don't know if that's ever something that opposing defenses want to hear, right? So can they get back to that? We'll see. But I do like the overall makeup of a NATO, of a DJ Campbell. Cole Hudson, I think, is a physical body playing center as well. So we'll see how it looks going into fall camp. But I think the ceiling ultimately could just be a little bit higher than last year.
Yeah. No, like I can't wait to see what the run concepts are, because I didn't know if, you know, the run concept they had been running for the last 2 years, outside zone, was mostly their rushing identity. That was kind of their bread and butter. Was that based on the offensive line they've had and have had that continuity for so long, right? For the last 3 years, they've had that offensive line for the most part, but now you lost Christian Jones a year ago. Now you're going to lose, you know, 4 of the starters on that offensive line. So now with basically an entire new group of offensive linemen, except for one, DJ Campbell, yeah, do they have different strengths? And does that influence the run game and the variety in the run game? Or is it still going to be, no, our bread and butter is outside zone. That's what we do. That's Sark's offense. Or is it going to adapt? I can't wait to see exactly how it plays out. All right. Thank you guys for all the questions. Thank you guys for the super chats as well. If we missed any questions, we apologize about that. Please direct them to the guys or at Coffee and Football tomorrow morning at 8:15. That'll be Jerry and Bobby. Also, tomorrow we'll have another live stream, PM live stream. We'll have that tomorrow at 7 p.m. and I'll be on that one as well as Jeff. I believe you're on that one as well.
3 of us again. Yeah.
Oh, all right. That same crew. All right. We'll be coming back to you for the 7:15 live stream tomorrow as well. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes, doing a great job as always. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you to Andy Luedecke and his team. Thank you as well to Mark Saunders, should be your all-state agent. And also we really Appreciate all of you guys out there for all of your participation and all of you guys for joining us tonight. So for Jeff,
Hey,
and
Rod, one quick programming note. Fans of Football Theory, you get a treat because of our NFL draft coverage on Thursday. Football Theory is going to drop tomorrow instead of Thursday. So
yes,
if you like Football Theory, you get it a day early.
Boom. Oh yeah. And I believe we are going to have a event streaming for the NFL draft, to Jeff's point too, for the first round of the NFL draft on Thursday. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, Jeff, for that clarification. And thank you as well to all of our sponsors. Like I said, Andy Luedecke, Mark Saunders, Advanced Pain Care. We appreciate them. Thank you to Matthew and for Jeff and for CJ. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.